All righty. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on this morning. Make sure everyone is in the right place. This is the Creating an Inclusive OST program for LGBTQ plus youth, facilitated by Ms. Siobhan Dotson, our lovely facilitator, our powerhouse. Thank you again for joining us, Ms. Siobhan. And good morning to everyone. So excited to have you all here today. And as mentioned last time when we met in December with Ms. Siobhan, this one will be our last session with her as our facilitator, but we give her many thanks. And as you all showed her love in the comments last time, and also through your responses in our surveys, you all really enjoyed her. So we thank her for all of her services and her talent and coming in. And like I said last time, dealing with us, Louisvillians. Thank you so much, Siobhan. So always in true Youth Success Network fashion, please, if you will, put your name and the organization that you are representing within the chat. For attendance purposes, please, your name and the organization that you are representing within the chat. Also, just a few announcements. So yesterday we sent out our newsletter, and the first thing that was on there was to announce our Youth Success RFP, our request for proposals, our grant opportunity. So please take a look at that. We will have an orientation tomorrow about this grant opportunity at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So please, if you want any more guidance or want to ask questions in regards to the opportunity, please hop on tomorrow. You can find that within your emails. But yeah, I will not prolong our time. Again, if you have not yet, put your name in the organization that you are representing in the chat, and I will go ahead and hand it over to our powerhouse facilitator, Ms. Siobhan Dotson. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Hello, and good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I don't know, I had to think about what day of the week it was. So let's see. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, Christy. Good morning, Whitney. Good morning, Levon. Good morning, Lissay from Americana. If I say my name wrong, please do correct me, because I really want to get your name right. But good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session today, creating an inclusive OST program for our LGBTQ plus youth, facilitated by myself, Siobhan Dotson. And I just want to say thank you so much to you all over at United Way in Kentucky, just for allowing me to be in the space with you all, to share space with you all, to learn from you all, to learn more about your programs and everything that you all have going on. It has been amazing. And I know Antonio and I were kind of talking about this beforehand. I know that our paths will absolutely cross again, and I am looking forward to those moments. And I'm actually hoping in my new ventures to be able to get out to Kentucky and see some of this in real life. So hopefully we can, the stars will align and we can make that happen. But good morning and hello. I want to do a check-in. If you've ever attended one of these trainings that I have done, you should know that I like to do a check-in, really just check in with you, see how you are doing, your wellness. So I don't know about what the weather is like where you all are, but I'm here on the East Coast in the DC area, and it is rainy and gloomy this morning, and it was definitely a challenge for me to roll out of my very warm, comfortable bed this morning and get the day started, but I did it. So I want to check in with you. Let me know, how are you doing this morning? How are you feeling? Maybe even just in this moment, and we'll use our weather as a tool for us, a tool for measurement. So let me know, are you having a sunshiny day, which means you woke up in really great energy, you're in a great mood, maybe you're having a great moment right now, you're just really exuding some great energy. That's a sunshine day or a sunshine moment. Are you having a partly cloudy day so far? Are you just like, it's not amazing, but it's also not horrible? So, we'll call it partly cloudy. I'm still trying to figure some things out. Maybe I'm still waking up. Or are you having a stormy morning right now? Are you having a stormy moment, which means I'm really not in best energy. I really got a lot going on. My mind is here, but my mind is also other places. So it's one of those like, Siobhan, I'm here, but I'm really not here type of thing. So let me know, what type of space are you in this morning? Is it a sunshine moment? Is it partly cloudy, or are you having a little storm right now? Go ahead and type that into the chat for me and let me know. I see some people saying it's sunshine, a sunshine day. Okay, sunny. Kenya says still getting it together. I'm not mad at you, Kenya. Me too. Antonio, you always sunny. Listen, Christy, sunny. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, like I'm totally having a partly cloudy day and partly cloudy moments. I am totally still getting it together. So I am going to be completely transparent today. It has been a very interesting couple of weeks for me. And I am still sleepy this morning. So I am still kind of like getting up and getting into the day. Vashi says it's half sunny, half cloudy. Okay, Levon, it's a good day. Love it. Go ahead, and I don't want to mess up anybody's name. Is it Lasse, or I don't want to mess that up? How do you say your name?
Lasse, you get it right.
Okay, Lasse. Okay, thank you. And then is it Vashti?
Yes, you said it right. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I want to make sure I get everybody's name right. Okay, Lasse, thank you, and Vashti. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you all for checking in with me and letting me know what type of space that you're in. Like I said, I am still waking up. So I'm gonna be transparent with you. Like I'm still a little sleepy. It was a long night, but I'm going to give you all the energy that I have this morning because that is absolutely what you deserve. So I'm gonna give you my best this morning. I'm gonna give you my undivided attention. I have silenced as many notifications as I possibly can, and I'm going to be here with you. We are scheduled to be together until about noon, but depending on how this goes, we might end a little early. And I am going to tell you, this workshop is a little different from other workshops that I've done. This is purely meant to be very informal, and it is meant to be very conversational. I do have some slides. We're going to go through some things. But the reality is we are going to have a discussion, right? I want to know what questions you have. I want to know what trepidations you might have. I want to know what information you know, right? Because this is a learning environment where we are going to learn and grow together. I also want to give a disclaimer to say this. There really is no such thing as a wrong answer because you just don't know what you don't know. Okay, and this is a no judgment zone. I am not going to do a pop quiz and be like, pop quiz, what is this? No, if you are confused about a term, or maybe if you're just like, Siobhan, I still quite don't understand it. I still don't get it. It still don't make sense to me. I want you to share that and let me know. I am not trying to ask you to lean one way or the other. This is really an opportunity for us to all expand our understanding because here's the truth, our world is changing. What our world looks like today is not what our world looked like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Honestly, it's not even what it looked like 10 years ago. So there are always new trends. As I am learning, even in this field, there's always a new term that I need to be aware of. So we're always expanding our understanding and our knowledge base of this field, especially when it comes to creating an inclusive environment, specifically for our LGBTQ plus young people. So I wanted to make that disclaimer there. And I'm really excited that you all are here with me. Here's our agenda for today. You know, I'm doing the welcome now. We're going to start out with an activity surrounding identity. We're going to talk about some inclusive language, talk about a way to create some belonging, write some intervention strategies. Then we'll do a reflection and we'll close it out. And again, this is all meant to be conversational. All right, so this is me, Jazzy picture. Hey, a little bit about me. My name is Siobhan. I am a wife. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. My wife and I have been married for, it'll be 9 years. We've been together for 15, 16 years. Long time, I can't even remember, but that's how long we've been together. We have two children. Our oldest is 19. Woo, yes, I have a 19-year-old. And then we have a 2-year-old who is a spitfire of energy. I have over 20 years of experience in youth development. And I am a DEIB advocate, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. right? To me, the B part of this is the most important. It's the belonging. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do we create this sense of belonging and, this sense of inclusivity for our young people? I am going to also say that I don't know everything, right? Like, this is an ever expanding field and topic. And I encourage you all, as much as I encourage myself, to stay open. Stay open, stay researching. And you really want to just kind of stay on top of what are some of the, and I don't want to call them trends necessarily, but the information of how the world is changing, because we're going to talk a little bit about what the landscape looks like now versus what the landscape looked like 10 years ago. Maybe not even 10 years ago, maybe like 7 years ago. It's always changing. So we're always going to have to kind of stay on top of things as well. Before I really get started, I want to ask you, right? Go ahead and type into the chat and let me know, what are you hoping to learn in today's training? What are you hoping that you can learn?
Well, for me, anything that's new and up to date. I like to stay up to date on any new methodology, just any new information concerning that affects clinically, non-clinically moving forward. Just information, knowledge,
I love it.
continued education.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, I see some people typing. Feel free to take your time typing. I'm just reading things as they come up. Antonio says, hoping to learn how to create an authentic sense of belonging in program sites. I love it. Vashi says, I'm hoping to learn about things that I don't already know about, important things that will help me in the future. Yes, Levon says, how to make sure everyone is getting what they need from the programming without being offensive to any culture or subculture. Barbara says, I want to gain a better understanding and knowledge to support my students, people, and continue to be a safe place. Yes, yes. And if anyone who's still typing, feel free to keep typing. So thank you all for coming to this with an open mind and just really a willingness to learn. We're going to use our chat as our parking lot feature, right? So any questions that you have, any comments that you want me to be aware of, I'm going to just ask that you type them into the chat, and I will be sure to acknowledge them and answer your questions or come back to it when we can. But remember, I'm gonna keep saying this. This is also meant to be very conversational. So at any point, you can unmute yourself at any time, and you can ask a question, you can make a comment, you can share an anecdote. You could do any of those things. You can also use our reactions button if you're just like, hey, Siobhan, I'm here. I hear you. Maybe I just don't want to say anything. I don't have any words to type, but I want you to know that I'm participating. You can always use this reactions button down at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Click that and give me a thumbs up, a hand clap, a heart, a wow, I didn't know that. Whatever it is, you can always click that as well. So just a couple of different housekeeping things on how we're going to interact here today. Okay. We're going to do a quick icebreaker. So I want you all, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. We are going to play, it's called like alphabet scavenger hunt. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. You have to gather as many items that begin with every letter of the alphabet, as many things as you can. And you are going to come back and you're going to share with us everything that you got. You'll start with the letter A, and if you have an apple, you'll be like, I have an apple mouse. I would count that as A for apple. It's an apple mouse. And then you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth. We'll see how many things you were able to scrunch up. Now, the goal is not in a minute for you to go and like run and grab everything. It's really meant for you to just gather up as many things that are within your reach and you will let us know all the things that you were able to gather, and then you're going to share them with us. So I'm going to put 60 seconds on my clock, on my timer here. Again, you will have 1 minute to try to get as many items as you can, items that start with every letter of the alphabet. And then you are going to, we'll have like a little show and tell in a sense. You'll have an opportunity to let us know everything that you were able to scrounge up within 60 seconds. Give me a thumbs up if you are clear on what we are about to do and you are ready to go.
I'm not.
And this is why I do checks for understanding.
Yes, I was thinking the same.
And this is why we do a check before we get started. All right, so what you'll do, and I'll give you a better example. You'll have 60 seconds. You're literally just going to grab items, as many things as you can. And I just want you to think about things that might start with all the different letters of the alphabet. So in essence, you'll try to have 26 things. And then you're going to start at the top of the alphabet when it's your time to present. And you're going to say, well, the first letter is A. I wasn't able to find anything for A. B, if you have a ball, you would like B for ball. C for, oh, I have a candle. C for candle. D for, I don't have anything that starts with a D in front of me. And so on and so forth. E, F, G, H, I, J, and as many letters as you can. If you know that you're just like, girl, I ain't find none for A through D, you can be like, we'll skip those, and you can let us know which letters you found things for. So like I have a P, I have a pen. I could have did B for book. So does that help? Is that a better example?
Yes, I get it now.
Okay, perfect. Kenya, what about you?
Get it.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And again, this is why we do checks for understanding. I don't want to start something if y'all like, girl, I still don't know what you're talking about. All right. So now if anyone is unclear, go ahead and unmute yourself and let me know or type into the chat. Awesome. Okay. 1 minute on the clock. You will have 60 seconds to find the things. And then at the end of the 60 seconds, we'll all come back. And I'm going to ask you all to share one by one. All right, and here we go. 60 seconds. Find your items. Ten more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. 60 seconds goes fast. Okay. Listen, y'all, I was sitting here trying to think about what I have, and to be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie, I started to forget some of the letters of the alphabet. I was just like, what letter come next? I was trying to be real intentional about this. Okay, so let's see. I am just going to call a random person's name.
I want to go. I think.
Oh, perfect. Kenya wants to go first. I love it. Thank you. All right, Kenya, go ahead. Let us know what you got.
I think I did good. I got A for apple because I got apples and oranges sitting out on my table. I couldn't find none for B. C, I got a cord for my laptop. D, because I'm sitting by the door in my house. E, because it's an earring sitting on my table. F, because it's a flower on my table. Couldn't find nothing for G. H, because I'm looking at a hat in my room. I couldn't find nothing for I. J, it's a pack of jelly sitting on my kitchen counter. Then I got K for me, Kenya. Laugh out loud, I cheated. But L for letter, because it's a letter sitting right here. M for money, because it's a money sitting out on my table. N, I don't have nothing. O for orange. Then I got to P, that was where I stopped for paper.
First of all, Kenya, you got a lot of random stuff sitting near you. So I love it. I love that you were just like, yep, I got all of this stuff. It works. All right, perfect. So you got all the way to P. That's
all the way
better
to
than me.
P.
That's better. I think I got to like G, and then I was like, I'm done. I can't even find anything. All right, I see. Thank you, Kenya, so much for sharing. I know if I ever need some random stuff, right? I know Kenya will help me with like some random things if I need it. I love it. All right, I see Barbara's hand raised. Barbara, does that mean you're ready to go next?
Yes, I will go next.
Perfect.
All right, so I have A for apple, B for my Bible, C for my calendar, E because I have a boiled egg for lunch, F because I have a fan in my office. What do I have for, G because I have glue on my desk because we worked on vision boards yesterday. H is for my hot coffee. I was for the ice in my tea. J was, did I have anything for J? I don't think I had anything for J. K was for my Kleenex on my desk. L was for a letter that I have to read. M was for the mouse to my computer. N was for my notepad. O was for the orange I'm gonna have for lunch. P was for the pen that we have. And I think that's where I stopped as well with Miss Kenya.
Listen, y'all got fun. That is awesome. Thank you, Barbara. I'm telling you, I did not get past G. So y'all were speedy. I love it. Anyone else want to go next?
I can go.
Perfect.
Oh, I switched over to my phone so that I could navigate my office instead of being on my laptop. So let me see how this works. I can see myself. Okay. I got so I got A for aerosol, and then I got a B for a bottle right here. I got C for a candle right there. D for don't have anything for D. E Ethernet cord. So I got an Ethernet cord that's down there. I got a F for a fan. G, what did I say for G? I don't think I have G. H, I got a hat on my desk, keep me warm, ball head. And then I, there's ink inside of my pen. And then J is for the jacket that I have on. Try to change this up. That's my jacket. HIJK, don't think I found anything for K. HIJKL, M. Oh, I got money. Oh no, I don't. I used to have money in here. HIJKLMN. Oh, notes. I got notes for N. O, my door is open. And P, pen, like everybody else. Q, definitely have questions. Q, R, I have rhythm. R, S, T, I got tape. And I'll stop there.
I love that you have questions. And I love that you have rhythm. Thank you,
Exactly.
Antonio, for your creativity with that. I love this. I love it. I love it.
We need a demonstration of the rhythm, Antonio.
Touche. I
He
love
always
it.
does the most. Like he does things you can't come out there. Like I just, just give up when he talks. Just listen.
I love it. Somebody said, but I feel you, Antonio, you're gonna have to prove your rhythm one of these days, right? Like we're gonna need to see, we're gonna have to see proof of the rhythm. I
Yeah,
love
one day I got you. One day.
it. Awesome. So thank you so much. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Okay, so I got A for Apple phone. I got B, breakfast for B because I'm kind of eating breakfast right now. Yeah, C because I'm sitting on the couch and I got cookies and cheese. D, I don't have nothing. E, I have eggs. F, I don't have nothing. G, I don't have nothing. H, I have hat and ham. I don't have nothing. J, I have juice. K, nothing. L, nothing. M, McMuffin. N, nothing. Then O, I have Oculus. There's an Oculus sitting next to me. Then P, I'm on the phone. Q, I have nothing. R, nothing. And then for S, the shoes on my feet. And then for the rest, T through Z, I don't have nothing.
Awesome. Thank you. You know, I'm thinking about getting an Oculus. So I'm wondering, like, you have to let me know, is it worth the investment? Because that is on my list of things I'm thinking about investing in.
It's kind of worth it. My son got a boxing game on her. I think it's Creed or something. And that's a great workout.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Adding to my list, you just convinced me. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
B, I have for book. C, I have cord. Did I have anything for D? I don't have D. I don't have E. I don't have F. I have E for envelope. I have, I had H for hand sanitizer. And that's basically it of what I'm seeing.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. That's okay. Listen, that's about as far as I got. So I think you did better than me. I love it. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Who wants to go next?
Me and Law can go.
All right. Go ahead.
So we have her Apple Watch, and then we have a bowl noodle for B, and we have a cup. What's next? D. We have our desk. E. Eraser, the Expo eraser. What's next? G. F. No, F. What's that? I think that's all we got.
I love it. Thank you. Very creative. D for desk. And you know what's funny? I was sitting here like, I don't have anything for D, but you're right. I have my desk and I didn't even think of that. So thank you for that tidbit. I love it. Barbara says, I'm enjoying all the creativity. Me too. It's so interesting to see how we name things, right? And how creative we can be to make things be exactly what we need it to be. I love it. Anyone else want to go?
I can go.
All righty, go ahead.
So for A, I have my Apple phone. For B, I have my book bag, known as a backpack. C, I have my chair that I'm sitting in. D, I have my desk. E, I have envelopes at my desk. F, I have folders. G, I didn't have anything. And H, I had hand sanitizer.
Thank you for that. Let me tell y'all something. I've been sitting here like thinking I don't have some of these things, and you all are putting in my mind like, duh, Siobhan, C for chair because you're sitting in the chair. And I was like, I don't have anything for C. So this is very helpful for me. I was not thinking of half the things that you all are thinking of, things that I'm literally sitting in or have on my body. That is amazing. Thank you all for that. Anyone else want to go? Anyone who hasn't gone want to go? Awesome. Okay, this was fun. Thank you. I love doing this activity because it's really fun. I love doing it virtually, but you can also do this activity in person, right? If you're with your young people, you can give them, you don't have to give them 60 seconds, you can give them 30 seconds, you can give them whatever, you can say you got 15 seconds to find and gather up as many things, whatever. But this is a really fun activity to do. And also to see how creative your young people can get. I'm telling you, young people can be very, very creative with how they name things, or what they can come up with, right? Like kids be like, I got T for TikTok because I got TikTok on my phone, right? Whatever. And so it's a really fun, creative game that you can also use if you've never done this game before. I would definitely say put it in your toolbox and pull it out whenever you find that it can be very, very useful. So thank you all for that. And that was just a really great way to kick off the time here. And it moves us into our next slide, right? Our group agreements. So the goal here is for us to create a space where we feel like we can have conversations that might seem uncomfortable, where we can have conversations that might seem a little tough, or where we can ask questions. And the goal is to create a space where we feel like we can be a little vulnerable. So I always love to do group agreements. And group agreements are basically you telling me, what is it that you need from this space today in order for you to really maximize your learning, right? So you can say, hey, Siobhan, what I need today, I need no judgment, right? If that's what you feel like you need, then here's the Jamboard link. I'm gonna ask that you click that Jamboard link for me. It's gonna take you to our Jamboard there. And we are going to, there we go. I'm going to share that screen. Here's our Jamboard link here. And I want you to post on here whatever it is that you need. And if you've never used Jamboard, I'll show you. If you click this little sticky note thing here, boom, you can go ahead and type on there, I need some fun, right? Like, I don't know, you whatever you need to say, and then you can post it there. So I'm going to give you all, I'll give you about 2 minutes. I want you to take some time and think about what it is that you need and post it there, and then we'll go over it. Give you about 1 more minute. Thirty more seconds. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So we had some people type onto our Jamboard, some things that you feel like would be very helpful for you, maximizing your learning here. All right, so someone said, I need examples. I love it, okay. Someone said clear definitions. We are gonna do that. Someone said patience for my understanding. Absolutely. Someone says, I need coffee. Touche, right? Make sure you take some time to go grab you some coffee so that you can feel like you can really be here. And this was just the one that I put. I need some fun. I'm still waking up, so I need some fun. I need some laughter as we go through this. If you feel like there are other things you can think of that you might need, feel free to add them to our Jamboard here. Before we move on, I just want to say that can we all collectively agree that we will provide these things for one another? If so, go ahead and hit me with a thumbs up to let me know, hey, I can do this. I can provide this for the group. I can be a part of creating a safe space to help everyone maximize learning here today. I see some thumbs up coming up. Awesome. Yes, thank you. So we are all in agreement that we're going to provide collective understanding and patience. We'll all talk through some examples as they come up. I will definitely provide some clear definitions. We can all agree, let's have some fun today, right? We're together for a little bit, so let's make it fun. And the person who needs coffee, I hope that you can grab you some coffee today. Awesome. So thank you all. I am going to go back to sharing my presentation. And we are going to get back into it. Okay. So I want you all to think about the who am I, because we are talking about inclusivity and we are talking about identity. And so what I want you to do, and I want you to think about your own identity, how you identify, what these things that are really important to you. I'm going to put, where does this says get link? Here we go. I am going to share a link into the chat. And I'm going to have you fill out this Google form, and we're going to go through it because I want to make sure everyone understands. But this is really to encourage you to start thinking about your own identity and how often you really think about these things. So there is a link there. It's going to take you to a Google form. And this Google form is going to ask you a series of questions in a sense. So here's our Google form here. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to think about your own comfort level, about your own identities, right? So I want you to think about your comfort level with your own age, and you're going to select the box that most applies to you. Your age. Do you think about it the most? Do you think about it the least? Does it have the strongest influence on how you perceive yourself? Does it have the strongest influence on how others perceive you? Has it provided you with an advantage or a privilege? Has it provided you with a disadvantage, or has it, made you a target? Is this an identity you'd like to learn more about? So for each of these specific identities, you're going to check as many or as few of these boxes that apply to you. We're going to talk about it for age, your ability status, your body size, your citizenship, your national origin, your education level, your employment status, your family configuration, your first language, gender, race, relationship status, religion or spiritual affiliation, sex, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status as a child, and then your current socioeconomic status as well. So for all of these, you're going to click as many or as few of these boxes as you feel applies to you. And then I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do so. and we're gonna have a discussion about it. And again, this is all about how this applies to you personally. Before we move on, I want to ask, does anyone have any questions, or is anyone unclear about what I'm asking you to do? Okay.
I
didn't
have
see
a question. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I got a question.
no, go
'cause
right
something
ahead.
I already see that I have two answers for.
Say that one more time.
Can we have, like, for example, I'm looking at the age right now, and I have two. Is it all right to check? Wait a minute, it's on your board.
You can check as many as you want to.
That's all I wanted.
Yes, yes, you can check as many of these or as few of these as you want to. It is that there is no right or wrong answer. There is no wrong way to do this. Thank you for asking that question. Any other questions? All right, so I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Go ahead and fill this out, and then we are going to debrief about it. Two more minutes. 30 more seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. I want to hear from you. First, I want to hear what were some of your thoughts about this activity? Maybe some of your thoughts or some things that you noticed while doing this activity.
I think it was a good activity, and it held cause to reflect on a lot of stuff, and then put a lot of thought into it. So, like age, I'm like 42 years old, so I still feel youthful and young. But when I'm around my kids, they way younger than me, so they look at me like an old person, the same way that I would have probably felt when I was their age, basically. So it provides like a lot of different issues, but not too many. Depends on how you really look at it. And then like say ability status, I didn't really understand what that meant for real. And then body size, I'm 6'5", 6'4". So like being tall, there's a lot of advantages that go with being tall. There's a lot of disadvantages too, like can't have or nothing. So like citizenship or national origin, yes and no. Educational level, definitely. I'm not a graduate of college, but I have my own businesses and things like that, and I do a lot of different stuff. So people do look at you like in one aspect, oh, you don't have a college degree, but then when they find out what you do for a living, then it's like, oh, okay, well, and they kind of like changes the perception of that. Employment status, like I said, I run my own organization on my own business, so my employment status, I am the CEO of my organization. So that makes me feel good. And then it inspires other people around you that to know that if you dedicated and work towards something, that you can be the CEO or president of an organization without having to like literally be a graduate of a university. Family configuration, definitely think about that stuff because I have 4 children and have to watch them grow up and help them grow. So it's different kind of thought process to go with that. First language is English. I don't really put too much into that, but I do want to learn different languages. Gender, I'm a man, I'm a Black man, and I'm tall. So it comes with a lot of different adversities and privileges. Race, again, being tall and Black come with a lot of disadvantages, and it come with quite a few privileges too. Relationship status, I think that's more judgmental where people are like, are you married or not married or single? And I don't really put too much into that, but I noticed in society, when they ask some questions, they evaluate you based on that type of stuff. Religious or spiritual, I'm a very religious person, a very spiritual person. And I think that we all have to have a main connection with the Most High in order to move out here and gain supernatural visions in life that helps you get through hard times, bad times, or whatever. Sex, I really didn't understand what that meant because I feel like gender is the same thing. I don't know if that's changed based on pronouns. Sexual orientation, I'm a straight man, so I don't look at that in any kind of way. Social economic childhood status, that is very something that impacted my life. I grew up in poverty in a sense, and I did notice that people treat people that's impoverished a certain kind of way. I even see that now, like being like a nonprofit organization, when you have situations where you're doing community-based activities like giving away food or clothes or any kind of thing like that, you may have to check people around you to make sure that they're being empathetic to the kids or their parents or things like that, not being judgmental. Social economic status, current, I'm in a kind of a decent space, so I don't really think about that. Just happy to have survived all my struggles just to get to where I'm at in life. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you, Levon, for sharing your thoughts and your feedback on this with us, and just, your own perspective while going through this, and, some thoughts that may have come up for you or about some of your own identities by saying, these are some things I may find myself thinking about a lot, or that always have to be in the forefront of my mind. And then there are other things like, I actually don't have to worry about this. Like, I don't really, it's not something I really think about. Some things that are a disadvantage are also an advantage in some spaces. So there's a lot to think about there. Thank you for sharing. We'll take one other person. Anyone else want to share maybe their thoughts?
Oh, sure. I think it's good to do activities like this to reflect on, the things that give us advantages and also disadvantages, and also to reflect on how we are perceived to others, and also how we perceive ourselves, because perception versus reality, it's like perception is the reality in which we navigate the world. And so it's based on how people perceive you. So you may have great intentions, or you may think that the way you perceive yourself, others are going to perceive you the same way. But in a lot of times, it's not the case. People are going to perceive you based on their prior experiences and their own biases that they have, from previous experiences. So just being able to reflect on these things, I think this was a good activity for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really enjoy doing this activity. I remember the first time I did this activity, I'm gonna be honest with you, it was very triggering for me the first time I, as a participant, did this activity, because this activity did kind of force me to sit with myself and think about my own identities in a different way, right? And I found myself checking boxes like, I'm noticing a thing that is an advantage in one space also makes me a target in another space, right? And for me, that felt really, really humbling and really, really triggering as well. And it also kind of gave me a little bit of a complex about, again, for me, it was like all of these labels, these identities that I have to carry. And it made me really just sit in a way with this information. And I like hearing other people's takeaways from when they do this activity. So we're talking about creating inclusive spaces in our programs for our LGBTQ plus youth, right? And let's talk about some of these things that our young people might really think about all the time. So when you think about things like your age, right? Let's just be honest, in our programs, our young people are constantly reminded of that they're young, that they're, well, you only this, and you a child, and you this. So I'm sure our young people, and I've heard feedback from young people, they think about their age kind of a lot because it's always thrown in their faces. And ability status, thank you, Levon, for saying like, I really wasn't sure kind of what that was. People who don't have this, the same abilities as others, they know exactly what ability status means, right? And that is ability status when you think about ability versus, like disability. That's kind of where we're referring to. Are you able-bodied? Are you able to do more things, mentally? Do you have the mental capacity to do more things than others? So that might be something that is top of mind for some people. When we think about our LGBTQ plus youth, I want to bring your attention to some very specifics here. Gender, we're going to talk about this. Gender, sex, sexual orientation, those are all different. And we're going to talk about the differences, and I'm going to give you some definitions for those things. I also want to bring your mind to family configuration. For some people, and I'm going to speak personally as a woman who is married to a woman, I am in a same-sex marriage. I have to think about family configuration more than some other people might have to think about family configuration. My wife and I, we have a son together. I did not give birth to our son. My wife did. We had to literally think through, like, how is this going to happen? We have a 19-year-old. We had to think about our family configuration, how we would help her explain her family configuration to, you know, to others without feeling judged, with, you know, with still feeling some level of support. So when you think about your young people, these are things that really are top of mind for them. Things that might seemingly be like, well, you know, yeah, I got some kids, or maybe I don't have kids. Family configuration is a real thing. Them identifying their gender could be a real, you know, a complex around that. Them explaining their sex to someone, or even having to answer that question on an application, sexual orientation. These are things that sit with a lot of our LGBTQ youth, where we're sometimes not creating safe spaces for them to have these discussions or even share their thoughts. I'm going to go stop share here and go back to my presentation. And we're going to get into some definitions for everything. And when I do this activity, it's not the first time I've heard people say, well, Siobhan, you have sex on here, you have gender, like they're this, you know, I don't understand the difference. And I love when people say that, because it's a really great opportunity for us to take time and really go through some definitions for things. And so I also want to start again by saying, this is a safe space. If there is something you are unsure about, definitely feel free to share so that we can all work together to create a shared understanding of this. So we're going to talk about understanding inclusive language. And we're going to talk about these things on a spectrum. All right. So typically we're so accustomed to, sometimes we can be accustomed to thinking about things in the binary. It is one thing or the other thing. But when we're talking about inclusivity, we are not saying it's one or the other. There is absolutely a space to be both and, right? It can be a spectrum. And this is where I see a lot of people start being like, girl, it's too much. I don't understand. You know, I don't understand all of these terms, or I'm not sure what you're telling me, all these pronouns. Like I had someone in a training be like, girl, I don't do all them pronouns, but you should. Right? I always tell people, think about pronouns the same way you think about your name. If I introduce myself to you and I say, my name is Siobhan, I don't want you calling me anything other than what I have introduced myself to you as. Don't call me Nancy. Don't call me Stacy. Don't call me Nikki. I've told you my name is Siobhan. It's the same way with pronouns. You don't get to judge if you think my name fits me. I don't get to look at Barbara and say, but Barbara, you look like a Susie, Barbara. You know, I don't get to say that and say, you know what, Barbara, but because you look like Susie, I'm gonna call you Susie. And I'm just like, hey, Susie, every time I see you, like, girl, that is not my name. It's the same thing about pronouns. If someone introduces themselves to you as a he, a she, a they, a them, a we, a us, it doesn't matter. It's not for you to say, I don't understand it. It doesn't matter if you don't understand. It's not your identity. It's how they identify themselves. So it's like, it's easy for me to respect it because it's not my identity. Just like it's not my name, it's not how I express myself, it's them. So it's me respecting however they express themselves, which brings us to like our first term. We're gonna talk about gender expression. So gender expression, it refers to people's presentation of their gender to others. So when you think about gender expression, I want you to think about the way people dress, maybe some of their mannerisms, maybe the way that they groom themselves. So gender expression is like how I express myself in the way that I do the things. So I might wear nail polish. I might wear lipstick. Have you all ever seen a man wear nail polish? Like, I don't know if you're on like TikTok or something, but there's this guy that I used to follow on TikTok. He always has like different color nail polish on. He very much presents very masculine, right? But my man likes to wear nail polish. Sometimes he likes to put on, you know, some black lipstick. That doesn't mean that he has a different pronoun. Like, that doesn't mean that there are all of these other things I need to associate with him. That is just how he expresses himself. If he has told me he identifies as a he, right? So gender expression is different from gender identity. Expression is my presentation. Might be how I wear my hair. I could wear my hair a little bit more masculine if I wanted to. So real story, I will tell you, I'm gonna give y'all all the tea about me today. You about to learn so many facts about me. You're gonna be like, oh, I know a little bit too much about this lady. So typically, I am very feminine in my gender expression, right? I'll wear earrings. I love to wear makeup, what have you. What was it, like 2 days ago? I had this like full jogging suit on, and it was just really comfortable. And it was so funny because as soon as I put this like full jogging suit on, I really felt myself tap into a little bit more of what I would identify as like more of a masculine gender expression. I immediately was sitting different. Like my mannerisms were just automatically, I'm slouching a little bit more. I kind of had like a little bit more swag in my step. I was leaning to the side a little bit more. And I found that very interesting about myself. I said, wow, that's so interesting. As soon as I put on something that made me feel a little bit more into my masculine energy, that's how my mannerisms came off. That don't mean that that's how I don't identify as a he or a him, or, you know what I'm saying? That's not my gender identity. At the time, that is how I was expressing myself, a little bit more in my masculine energy there. And it was so interesting for me because I'm telling you, Siobhan can probably be just as feminine as they come. I love tapping into my feminine energy. But I had a moment where I said, wow, I'm really enjoying tapping into this more masculine energy as well. Some of my little testosterone popping around, like, okay, you know, and that was just how I expressed myself at the time. So when you're thinking about gender, I see a hand raised. Can you go ahead?
Now it's funny that you said that. And I definitely understand what you've been identifying as a lesbian woman, because I'm straight, but I think the jogging suit, it just makes you comfortable. Like you be so comfortable, like you would do things that you doing, because as a woman, regardless of what you identify as, even if you wear a dress or a skirt, you know, you're made to position and suit yourself a different kind of way. So when you got somewhere your whole body's fully covered up, you are more relaxed.
Absolutely.
I do that for me, myself, and I laugh because I can understand why you said that.
You feel a little bit more relaxed. It's like you just kind of start relaxing into it. It's like, all right, well, I might sit a little different. And again, it has nothing to do with sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with how you identify in your gender. It has nothing to do with your biological sex. It's just about, this is how I am expressing myself today. So I say that to say, again, this is not a binary thing. It does not have to be one or the other. This is very much a spectrum. It can be both and. Someone can want to be very, masculine in their expression today and very feminine in their expression tomorrow. They can be both masculine and feminine at the same time. Okay, so this, again, think about it as a spectrum. So I have a question here. I want you to just kind of start thinking about this. How can you create the space for some gender expression in your program? What do you think you can, like, what can that look like to create the safety, right, for some gender expression to happen in your program? And you can say anything. I just love to hear your thoughts.
I think it starts with like the staff and educating the staff. I think it starts there, because that's when, the leader of the site director isn't able to be in all rooms at all times. And so you have staff members who are the ones who are the adult in the room, and they are the ones who are kind of setting the tone and creating that safe space for the young people. And if if they're not educated on, these terms and these different ways of expressing yourself, then I think that kind of hinders or impedes progress in creating a safe space for gender expression. Like just like now, I'm learning like, okay, there's gender expression and then there's gender identity, and just trying to wrap my head around this, because this is not simple. Like it is complex because our brains are wired and biased. If we see certain characteristics, then okay, that's that or that's this. And now to know that there is more complex, there's colors to this. It's not just black and white. It's kind of like you actually have to have like a certain level of intelligence. Like it takes some intelligence to be able to navigate this space. So I think the education piece is like kind of fundamental.
Just to reiterate off the back of what Antonio just said, I believe strongly in having icebreakers for the youth and allowing them to have peer-on-peer discussions and educating. Because once you do the icebreakers and allow everyone in the room to introduce themselves, and a lot of times, because a lot of, such as yourself, Siobhan, as you did today, well, today you just kind of disclosed, but a lot of other youth are very confident in their identity, no matter what they identify as, and real sassy, and I love it. I truly do. I love it, because ain't nothing like being confident, and then let's continue to support that, because sometimes it can be under layers to that confidence to where I got to stand strong in who I am, but also educating the room, because now more than ever in these days and times, I mean, it's in everyone's family. Everyone has someone in that identify or as trans, out the different labels, pronouns, as you just discussed. But for me, it's just being an African-American woman and having these conversations, because it's a lot of similarities in it as it relates to biases and how people see and view you as the world. Because a lot, no matter education status, and Levine kind of discussed that earlier about the survey, you still would be seen as a Black person, a Black, you know what I mean? We just being Black, period. And then a Black woman or a Black man, we have so many biases against that. We already are perceived as a threat sometime when we walk in a room. And that could be the same as the LGBTQ community as well. Just having a lot of uncomfortable conversations until we get comfortable, or it youth, because their minds are still developing, they adjust. They'll adjust once they get, because they don't want to really truly be disrespectful to someone. A lot of it is about understanding, and again, just really educating themselves and allow them to be them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Antonio and Kenya. Barbara, I saw you had your hand up.
I was just gonna confirm everything or agree with what has been spoken, but we do a lot of like art expression. I think sometimes when people aren't comfortable in whatever it is they're feeling or that particular moment, just doing a lot of art expression sort of helps. So that's another way for them to feel comfortable. It's a good way to open up the conversation when we're doing this art, because maybe I see something on your paper and I just feel like for my group of students that I serve, that has been very helpful, because now, as you said, we've opened up the door. So, you do something on your paper that you wanted to share, but maybe can articulate, and just having that open discussion and getting that peer support from your other friends, and them learning different things, us learning. We have a nonverbal child in my group who is amazing. We love him. And so my children are very empathetic, and I'm very blessed for that. So we are learning how not just to navigate that, but navigate that he is also maybe uses different pronouns. So, just teaching them how that we're all different in different respects, and learning how to navigate. And just being, like you said, creating that safe space, educating ourselves. Children, as she stated, Ms. Keenan stated, children are very confident in themselves. And if we can take some of that confidence that they're eluding and then let them be confident in their own space, I think it helps us become more comfortable. Because what I've learned is a lot of times the kids are fine. We're the ones who are like, oh my gosh, we're the ones that are a little bit, because, So education obviously is key, and just going with the flow, just watching. I mean, I just learn a lot from my children just by watching them, you know, watching, as you were talking about, their mannerisms, you know, what are they saying non-verbally? Because a lot of times some things aren't spoken, you know, they're just displayed, but we have to be open to be able to see those things, to be able to provide that safe space for our children.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for that. All right, Lasse, I see you have your hand raised as well. Go ahead.
It's me, Vashti, but
Okay.
I just wanted to say that to create like a good, safe environment, you should like validate everyone's feeling and like not just like, how would you say, like push away their feelings, and then like even if it's not like what you believe in, it is very good that it's very like you have to, you know, let them express themselves and do the stuff they do, even if you don't agree, you know. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. And I agree. I agree with a lot of what you all said, you know, creating this space. I think it is very important for us to, we always are going to bring a lot of our own personal biases into a space, right? Like we're human. And so that happens. I think the most important thing for us is to understand your own personal bias, right? Like that's just the first step to anything is the self-awareness piece. So you have to understand your own personal bias and admit that to yourself and say, okay, I'm understanding now that I'm feeling some type of way about this information. How can I separate, right, how I'm feeling about something versus, you know, compared to what someone is communicating to me about how they feel about their identity. I always tell people sometimes a lot of the times our ego can get in the way, and it's just like, I feel a certain way about this. But kind of, as Vashti said, really creating the space for our young people to express themselves or to identify however they identify, regardless of if you agree with it or not. Respecting something doesn't always mean you agree with it. I've had to have that conversation with people. I don't condone yet. Well, I didn't ask you to condone it. You can respect it because that's their decision, right? You can say, hey, that's really not what I believe in, or that's not, you know, it's not how I get down, whatever. But I respect that that is how you identify. I respect that that is the way you would like to express yourself. So I'm going to respect that. Right. So thank you all for this conversation. And again, this is all meant to be very conversational. So keep on. So we talked about gender expression is different from gender identity. So gender identity, it refers to one's internal sense of gender. Okay. And something to note, gender, it can be the same or it can be different as the sex they were assigned at birth. So I want you all to know this. Gender is a social construct. It is based on what society has defined it as. It is not based in science. So the reason we really highlight that gender is a construct, it is a societal construct, because it is going to vary based on which region of the world you might be in. I remember when I was an undergrad, one of my degrees is also in women's studies. We were studying a tribe. I cannot remember the name of the tribe, but it has always stuck with me. There's like an indigenous tribe somewhere on an island where men, I mean like masculine men, they wear dresses. But they don't call them like men, right? They have a whole different term for them. And so we would identify that as someone who is like dresses in drag or might be trans, right? But they have their whole different word for it. So it's all a societal construct, right? Depending on where you are, they might come up with a construct for whatever gender can look like. But gender is how someone identifies personally, how they see themselves. That might be different from their biological sex they were assigned at birth. Okay, so you can say, and this is where the pronouns come in. So I can say, you know, I might been assigned at birth female, but how I identify in gender could be a male, right? Like I can identify as a man in that way. So that is how that person might want to present. That might be what they depend on for gender expression, right? That might be how they identify in their gender identity. It is different from the sex they were assigned at birth. And it also has nothing to do with their sexual orientation. These are all different things. But again, think about this on a spectrum. Someone may not feel completely, like a woman. They may not feel completely like a man. They might feel somewhere in between any of those. One day and here's the thing I tell people, it's okay for those things to change because gender identity is how a person sees themselves. And I've had this discussion because people are just like, well, children are still developing. We shouldn't let them decide because they don't know. What if they change their mind? They have the right to change their mind depending on how they identify at that point in their life. If your gender identity might change, that it is your business, because remember, identity is your internal sense of self. If you say when I was 13, I felt like a woman, now I am 25, I feel like a man, but when I get 42, maybe I might feel like a woman. Again, your gender identity can change because it is how you identify yourself. Whether you agree with it, whether you completely understand it, right? It's okay because it's about how someone sees themselves. That brings us to sex. Sex, right? Or we think about it as your biological sex. That refers to all of these like physiological attributes. When we think about chromosomes, we think about hormones, we think about reproductive organs. All of those things go into sex. So that's the science of it, biology. That is what determines people's sex. So when we think about sex, we think about male sex, female sex. But there is also people who identify as intersex. Because remember, if sex is based on biology, there are people who were born with both chromosomes, right? Like more hormones. There are people who were born with both sexual reproductive organs, right? Like you could be born with, sometimes people would identify the clitoris, which is the clitoris in a female is the same thing as the penis in a man. Right? So when you think about how we develop and grow, women's clitoris, they are developed from what the male penis is. So when you think about how that develops, somewhere in the womb, a woman might have grown, a larger clitoris that when babies are born, a doctor will ask a mom or the parents to say, hey, you decide. You get to decide because your child was born with both. You get to decide whether you would like for this child to be female or male. Like there are definitely case studies where that has existed. So those people are also known as intersex, right? So that means that you might fall somewhere in the middle of both of them. Gender identity, gender expression, and sex, 3 totally different things. Go ahead, Kenya.
I think that is what just happened with the rapper Jeezy and his wife Jeannie. They had a baby last year and the world was in shock because they immediately stated when they first showed the photos that whatever their child wanted to identify as when the baby gets older, that they would acknowledge that. They wouldn't have it. They had a girl, but I'm guessing her clitoris may have been larger and going to be enlarged, period. I understood that, but when you on social media, it's horrible. because you're dealing with a lot of people's opinions and thoughts that are not educated to know exactly what you just said. I knew what that meant right away. So people would try to down you, and I totally understand and support that. Just wanted to say it, but that was just like really horrible because we live in a social media / internet world where people got opinions, more opinions than education, and don't really understand that they're bullying and hurting the parents, no matter who they are, whether it's Jeezy, whether it's myself. You know, if I had a child and wanted to and stated that, I would be shunned and looked down upon. And what they really don't realize is a form of bullying.
Yeah, and it's a form of exclusion, right? And we're stereotyping it, and it goes into a lot of misinformation. We're going to get to an activity shortly where we, really start to think about how those things exist, even within our programs, things that we can do. We're going to call those intervention strategies. So thank you, Kenya, for highlighting that. And I want to give you all some quick data. So in 2016, there was a survey done by the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Educators Network, and this was in 2016. They surveyed 10,528 students, right, between the ages of 13 and 21. And that's how many that they were able to identify as far as like them identifying as LGBTQ plus. In 2021, the Trevor Project also did a survey, right, around the same age group. They were able to survey 34,000 young people. So I want you to think about that. In 2016, they can only find about 10,500 that they were able to survey. 2021, they were able to survey 34,000. I project that in another 3 years, that number is going to be even greater for how many young people are identifying within the LGBTQ plus, categories, right? That number is going to increase. So as we expand our understanding, expand our awareness, and also expand our acceptance of how these conversations are happening, we're going to see more and more of our young people are saying, I actually fall into some part of that category. So we're really going to have to continue to challenge ourselves to continue these conversations and better our understanding so that we can create more inclusive language and inclusive programs around, making sure our young people feel welcome. Now, here is a very interesting statistic. Out of the 34,000 youth that were surveyed in 2021, I want you to know that 45% of those youth who identified as LGBTQ plus have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. 45%. That's almost half of 34,000 young people. Which is why I think it's so important for us to continue to have the conversations and understand, because I hear, some of you all have said like, hey, our young people they're confident in these things. Well, they might be confident in one area, but may not feel safe enough to express themselves in another area, right? So we talk about sexual orientation. I have to update this slide with the definition here, but when we talked about sexual orientation, that is how one, prefers their relationships, right? So that is about, thank you, Kenya, for attending. That is about how people prefer to be in relationship with one another, right? An intimate relationship. Again, different from sex, different from gender identity, different from gender expression. Different from, has nothing to do with how you use your pronouns. Some of these things might seem similar. Some of these things might seem, they might identify differently. I feel like there has been more acceptance around sexual orientation, but not as much acceptance around gender identity and gender expression. I really feel like our young people are starting to feel safe enough to say, I prefer to be in relationship with this type of person. But I don't feel like there is enough safety around how we are allowing our young people to identify and to express themselves. And again, we're going to talk about creating that inclusive environment. So remember, all of these things are on a spectrum, right? So at one end of the spectrum, you might see, male, masculine, a man, like being an asexual being. Asexual means that I'm really not sexually attracted to anyone. On the other end of the spectrum, we think about female, like feminine, woman, pansexual. Pansexual means I'm attracted to everybody. There doesn't just have to be these two binaries. You can exist anywhere on this spectrum in any area that we've talked about. You can exist anywhere on this spectrum for gender expression. You can exist anywhere on this spectrum for gender identity. You can exist anywhere on this spectrum for sexual orientation. Now, the only way we really start to see more of the binary is when it comes to the science of things, right? So when it comes to this biological sex, I either might be male, female, or intersex, right? Like somewhere in the middle of both of those. Everything else, you can fall wherever you want to fall on that spectrum. So I want to transition us into talking about, like, we've talked about these definitions. Let's have a discussion about how we can start to create more belonging in our programs. The first thing you want to do is remove barriers for participation. Making sure that you are having inclusive activities, inclusive language in your marketing materials, right? You want to think about, are your facilities inclusive? I cannot tell you how many times I have had this conversation about bathrooms with people, about restrooms with people. It is, to me, in my opinion, the most asinine conversation we can have. Because to me, it is as simple as, baby, use the bathroom. Wherever you need to use the restroom, like, use the restroom, right? I don't understand if it's such a big deal, create single stalls. I don't care which one you go into, go use the restroom. But we've had this conversation about bathroom. And here's the thing, I have come in contact with a lot of trans individuals. And this bathroom conversation brings up a lot of safety issues for them. It is a real thing, right? Because someone might be trans and their gender expression could be more masculine. Their gender identity could be a man, but their biological sex could be female. That is a conundrum for them. Like, well, I know which bathroom I want to go use. And that has been a real complex for people. And again, it can create a lot of safety. I used to go out with one of my friends all the time, and he's trans. And during his transition process, he would get to the bathroom and be like, it would be this like, ooh, I don't want to make these people uncomfortable. I don't want to make these people uncomfortable. Like, what do I do? Type of situation.
Real quick, Siobhan, I kind of had so I was working in residential, and so we go on field trips sometimes. And then we had a young man who did drag sometimes. And so we went to the pool and he was in drag. And then he had to go to the pool, to the bathroom to change, and he wanted to take off the drag to go, and swim outside of the costume, out of his clothes and stuff. And it's like, he was like, which bathroom do I go to? Because he's gonna go in, dressed as a woman, and then come out, as a young man. And so I was like, not sure, and he ended up going inside of the woman's restroom, because that's the way that he was going in, and just came out with I think maybe his wig on, and then took it off once he got to the pool. So that was kind of tricky for me to navigate.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's a real thing. And I also saw Vashti typed into the chat, like, amen, my little cousin has been through that. That's a real thing. So when we have these conversations about, like, facilities, like using facilities, even in our programs, it can become a complex. I was participating in a training years and years and years ago, and I worked in a recreation center, county recreation facility, and we had to have, one of these type of trainings before, which I was so happy we were having it, because there was a parent who came in, and this parent was the parent of like an 8-year-old, and was saying, my 8-year-old identifies as a boy, but was biologically born, right, as a female, and has had to navigate these conversations. And this parent shared her story with us, from a mom's perspective, to say, when my child was 4, my child was able to communicate to me and say, mommy, I feel like a boy. And it's easy for us to disregard those. You have no clue. You don't know. You still growing up. You still trying to figure it out. But this mom keyed in on how, her child was feeling, and said, okay, you are adamant about this, and just said, like, let's see where this goes. And when we came to the bathroom conversation inside of the child's school, and even inside of our recreational facilities, this parent had to go hard and advocate, you're gonna let my kids use whichever bathroom my child, we really had to put some safety precautions in place. So, and we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna move into an activity where we're thinking about ways in which we might find some barriers in our programs related to this, and what we might need to do to remove those barriers. Okay, so when we're thinking about creating belonging, we need to think about how we can remove the barriers for participation. And thank you so much, Antonio, for sharing that, because that's a real life example of how these things show up in our programs. And we need to support our young people, right? You were like, you as a staff, you're trying to help, a young person navigate, like, I don't, like, that's a good question. I don't know, how, and then we think, how can I support you? Like, let me figure out the best way I can support you. Also using inclusive language in our programs. Remember, identity, expression, or, sexual orientation, sex, those are all different things. So one thing I've had to catch myself on, because I say this a lot, it has just become habit. I would go into a space and be like, hey guys, like I just say like, hey you guys all the time, or, hey girls, hey boys. And so I've had to challenge myself to use more inclusive language. So I try to remove any like binary language from my marketing materials, from, our applications. Like I try to remove those very binary things and make them more inclusive. And as I go and look at different applications for things, I've been so appreciative of seeing different organizations ask, like, how do you identify? Are you, male? Are you female? Are you non-binary? Like really providing the options for people to self-select and for them to let you know how they identify. So I want you to think about the language that you use, right? Not to say that we can't have programs that are for girls, right? If it's a girls only program or the boys only program or whatever, right? But you want to leave the space for, well, how do you identify? If that's how if you identify as a girl, come on over to the girls program if that's how you identify, right? So I'm not saying that we can't have, those similar groups and those grouping mechanisms, but when we're using language in our programs, when we're using it in our, materials, are we using inclusive language? Are we being, more open to all of the possibilities, or are we still stuck in this very binary state? Creating a welcoming atmosphere where diversity matters and young people can be themselves. So I know I saw some of you, heard some of you talk about earlier about like, it starts with the staff. How welcoming are you? Are you off-put when you see someone, maybe someone who you thought identified as a boy, if you see them come into the program one day in a skirt and a dress and some lipstick, right? Like, is that gonna change the way that you treat that young person? Or are you even setting the tone for everyone to say, hey, we don't do the bullying. We don't use that language. We respect everyone for how they identify. I just want you all to think about how you create that welcoming atmosphere. How do you show young people that diversity really matters? And you really encourage your young people to be themselves instead of them feeling like they have to conform to a certain identity or a certain look or a certain, mannerism when they walk into the program. Do you even know if your young people feel like they can truly be themselves? I see a hand raised, Michelle.
Yeah, I have a question. So, when you mentioned about having like the inclusive language, like say if you do have like a men's group or a women's group, I guess how would you make sure that like explaining it is one thing, but like if you're like broadcasting like a flyer, for example, and I'm saying this because there's actually one in Jefferson County, that there's like this girls mentorship program and it's only specifically for the girls and it's like a certain age range and it's within the school systems and they're, they have like the flyers and all that's been created, but it's only specifically for that population. But there isn't anything that says, come as you identify or, anything specifically related to that. So if you were to read that as like, say, a youth, it would read as, oh, well, I don't know if I should go because it says it's only for women. Like, how would you get over that part without having to then verbally explain that, come as you are, or how do you identify? Like, do you see what I'm saying?
No, I absolutely totally understand. And one thing I encourage people to do is to put the caveat on their marketing material to say, like, if this is a girls, only, program, or we're really, we want girls, or whatever the phrasing is that you use, I would, put the language in there to say, like, if this is how you identify, this program is open to anyone who identifies as a girl, anyone who identifies as a woman. That's it. It's just like, this is a program for women identifying individuals, for girl, however you want to say that, but just let people know it's for anyone who identifies as that. Because I think that language then sets the tone to say, if that's how you identify, then come on. And I'm not going, right? Like, I'm not checking at the door. So I think that's just a really great way to say that it is inclusive because we're thinking about how people feel about themselves. And we're not, like, then we're getting away from the binary of one thing or the other. So that's usually what I just tell people. Hopefully that is a helpful tidbit for you, but that was a really great thing to highlight. And again, it's really just in switching our language, just like that, to say, all right, if this is a program for girls, then it's a program for anyone who identifies as a girl, because we're going to talk about things that people who identify as a girl can relate to, right? And that could be someone who was born a male, but identifies as a girl. They might, could also benefit from being in a safe place where they can have those discussions. And then here's another one: allowing youth and staff to actively learn from one another and contribute their thoughts without the judgment, right? So we want to create spaces where the conversation can happen, right? And I put here, don't shy away from tough conversations. You need to lean in and learn. If a young person corrects you on their pronouns, or if they, feel comfortable enough to tell you who they are, what they are, how they identify, or if you have offended them in any way, we don't want to be dismissive of those. We should welcome and lean into those conversations. And sometimes, because again, we're dealing with young people, sometimes us as a staff, we can be like, but we're going to be inclusive. We're going to do, we're really welcoming all of our youth. I want you also to lean into what are the conversations around you within your youth group. If you hear a young person saying something that could be offensive, could be deemed as bullying, are you stepping in? Right. And I know anyone who is, if your program is also doing the SEL PQA, I know that that's one of the newer areas in the SEL PQA where they really look at, assessing how are we managing what we see our young people doing to each other? Like, what are the steps that we are kind of stepping in and setting the tone when we think about creating the welcoming and a safe environment? Barbara says, this is one of the main ways to learn and create inclusiveness and belonging. Absolutely. We have to be willing to have the tough conversations, and we have to be willing to also say, I actually don't even know enough about this. I need to learn more, right? Antonio said, can we hear from how you, yes, and we're about to get into that right now. So here, we're going to talk about some intervention strategies. I have a Google sheet and I just want you to fill this out. We're going to talk about language bias, misinformation, exclusion, and stereotyping. These things sometimes happen. They happen at the program level, right, within our activities and our instruction. They can happen at the organizational level within our practices and our policies. Sometimes they also happen at our advocacy level, like with our giving our youth a voice. So what I want you all to do, I'm going to share this Google link with you to take you to a Google Doc, and you're just going to fill in. I want you to let me know, what can you do to prevent language bias within your programs, activities? What can you do to prevent language bias within your organizational practices? What can you do to prevent language bias with youth voice? Same thing for misinformation, exclusion, and stereotyping. What are some things we can do to prevent these particular things from happening at the program level? What do we need to do within our organizational practices and policies? And then what can we do to encourage our young people to have a voice? Let me grab this Google Doc. Here we go. And I want you to copy. Let me know if you have any questions or if you're not clear about what we are gearing up to do here. So there's the link, and I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see. Here's our link here. Give you some more. So I just want you to go and I want you to list out, right? So when we think about, I'm gonna give you an example. When you think about language bias, when it comes to our program activities and instruction, what can I do to help prevent language bias? I could say use more inclusive language, right? What can I do at the organizational practice and, or, in our policies there? Create more policies around protecting people's identities. Just something, whatever that could look like. I just want you, and I just want you, wherever you see it, you can go into the box if something is already there, hit a comma, and I want you to add all of those things as well. So we're going to make these as big and as long as we need to. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to do this. You can add as many as you want. I want you to hit, a colon, a comma, or something, but just add it into the box. And then we're going to take a look and we're going to discuss. I want you all to start thinking about how you can continue to advocate in your own programs. Any questions there? I can't see participants on this one. Oh, here we go. Okay. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to do that. Got about 2 more minutes. One more minute. And these are some awesome things I'm seeing you all typing in right here. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. These are really, really great. Uh-oh, Barbara says, my suggestions disappeared and were erased as others were typing. Feel free to type them in the chat if you can, if you want to go ahead and put them there right quick, Barbara, because I'm just going to look over and go over some of these.
It's fine. I'm sure that they're probably covered in other people's suggestions, so it's fine. I was just letting you know the comma thing didn't really work out, or it could be the navigator of the Excel sheet. So I will take responsibility.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, so here we go. Here's some things that you all talked about for language bias. In our program activities instruction, use more inclusive language, know your audience. Yeah, absolutely, getting to know, absolutely. Language bias and organizational practices are policies, right? I actually should say policies. Create more policies around protecting identities. Again, know your audience. Yeah. And then youth voice. Create platforms to allow you to express their issues or concerns. Ooh, possible interpreter. Opportunities for you to address an audience of their native language. Yes. Provide safe spaces for youth input to be implemented. Absolutely. Misinformation, right? So how can we prevent these things in our program activities? Have program materials, information, language be inclusive. Allow activities that staff and clients will benefit from. I love it. For youth voice, you also create opportunities for youth to express their barriers, their interests, their strengths. Yes, someone says have mandatory workshops for all staff to educate them about LGBTQ+. Absolutely, okay. We talk about exclusion. How can we prevent that in our activities, in our programs? Review all policy, program, activities, services to ensure all representation, they have safe access. Ooh. Someone says create subcommittee or work groups to review and address these practices, training needs, educational opportunities. Yes, I really love that. And then someone says opportunities for young people to develop their voices through leadership at the site, clubs that will allow you to express themselves. These are really awesome. For stereotyping, group agreements, set expectations daily. I am such a fan of group agreements. Someone said for, stereotyping, really talking about zero tolerance policies, programming, addressing bullying and stereotyping. And then someone says have ground rules for programming. So these are amazing, really, really great, a great place for us to really start thinking about what can we do? Where are some gaps in programming? What are some strategies that we can implement? And you all have come up with a really great starter set of strategies that you can take back into your programs and your organizations. Barbara, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Just quickly adding, we have rules, but it's the rules that the students came up with. So at the beginning of the session, we go over and talk about what rules they would like to do. Democracy kind of thing, we set up the rules. So when a situation occurs, we always refer back to what is the number one rule, which is respect. So the number one rule is respect. And then I tell my children that if you do the number one rule, everything else will fall underneath that. So if you're being respectful and speaking to someone in a manner that you'd like to be spoken to, or treating someone with that same respect, then so it's sort of important that they know that they have the voice and this is the rules that they came up with as a group.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And I'll just add this tidbit about respect. I always encourage people to work with your young people for them to define what respect means for them, what that looks like to them. Y'all, I have had to have this conversation for years with my oldest child. And we constantly have to revisit the definition of what do you think respect is? What do you deem as disrespectful? Because let me tell you my definition, right? And my oldest, we would go back and forth. I'd be like, well, I feel like you're being disrespectful. She like, what's disrespect, right? Like, I don't get how I'm being disrespectful. So I said, oh, we need to go back and redefine what you might see as respect versus what I might see as respect. Because, there's a lot of miscommunication that can happen there. So thank you for that and for saying, hey, our young people establish the rules. That's a great way to hold them accountable. And I do that all to say, hey, you know what? If you are breaking a rule, you're breaking a rule that y'all set. So this puts the responsibility back on them, and it encourages them to really work to maintain the safety of their space, because they will call it out and be like, Antonio is not following rule number 5. Antonio, rule number 5 is like, it will empower them to call it out, and they will tell you when you're wrong. They used to be like, Miss Siobhan, you came in here with funky energy today. Rule number 1 says, do not come in here with funky energy, right? Like they will call you out on it. And I'll be like, touche, you're right. Let me be an example. So I love that. So I would definitely say you all keep these thoughts and these these practices in the forefront of your mind. And I encourage you to take them back into your programs and be your youth's best advocate. Advocate for them in a major way, so that everyone can really feel like they belong in our programs, regardless of how they identify, regardless of how they express themselves. We want our young people to know you matter and you belong. And I'm going to just say these quick things and we're going to wrap it up. When our young people feel like they belong, right, they are way less likely to have thoughts of suicide. They are way less likely to experience depression. They are less likely to skip school, right? And they are less likely to engage in unsafe behaviors. We matter, right? What we do in our programs, it matters. And the spaces we create for them matter so much. What they may not get at home, they might need to get from your space, right? Or what they get from your space could also be an extension of the love that they feel at home as well. thank you all so much for taking the time to share with me and you know, share space today. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Antonio, for having me and for allowing me to do this. I really hope that you all felt like you learned something here today. I always like to leave with a reflection question, and you can type this in the chat if you want to. I'll just ask you for you to share with one thing that you're going to do differently as a result of this training. If you could just type that quickly into the chat, one thing you will commit to doing differently as a result of this training. And then I also see that Antonio put the Survey Monkey for today's workshop and the link as well. So make sure that you click that. And with that being said, I'm going to shut up and stop talking because we are definitely at time, and I want to give you all your time back.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. This was extremely insightful and educational, especially for myself. I learned a lot. This helped put some things in perspective for me. And also I do some coaching with sites. So this helps me to be able to take this to other sites and be able to implement these type of activities and things. So thank you for that. And I also encourage you all, you know, take these things that you learned here and take them to your staff meetings, volunteer meetings. And there will be a recording of this, so you will be able to send this out to them for them to watch, include it in the trainings or whatnot. But this is definitely something that we want to make sure that we provide for anybody who is going to be working with our youth, because we never know who is going to be walking into our spaces, and we need to be prepared and definitely have them to feel that they have a sense of belonging in our spaces. Again, like Siobhan said, we won't prolong the time, but thank you all so much for joining us, Siobhan. It has been a pure pleasure. So sad that this is our last one with you, but you know, we have a lot of recordings, you know, to go back and watch. And also thank you just so much for your energy, for your intelligence, for your expertise towards this. Louisville loves you. Please, if you ever come, please stop by Mitch United Way. We would love to see you. Go out for some lunch or something like that. With that being said, please don't forget to fill out the survey to let us know. We actually use that for reporting, and that goes to people who fund these types of activities. So if you like this, please let us know. The youth RFP, we will have a informational tomorrow about it, an overview. So please, if you are available at lunchtime at 12, please join that and look at the newsletter that we just sent out. And that is it. There will be a recording of this, and I will send it out once Zoom gets done recording it. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.